What's going on, guys? Chunky back here on my channel for yet another vlog. This time I wanted to talk about the microtransactions issue that pretty much everyone in the universe is having with Star Wars Battlefront 2. Now, I was one of the suckers that did buy that deluxe edition, so I did get it early and I have played through it. And while this isn't a review, I did want to speak my opinion on the microtransactions debacle that EA has currently caused and everyone's reacting to. So with that said, let's get to it. Firstly, let me get one thing across. I hate microtransactions. They're not always bad. I think Overwatch does microtransactions and loot boxes really well. But Battlefront 2 doesn't. Now the reason why from the get-go is progression. There's a lot of things that are locked. So obviously your weapons are locked from the get-go. To unlock those you need crafting parts, which I'll get to in a second. But as well as that, the heroes are locked and you need credits to unlock the heroes. Now how do you get credits? Sure, you can play through any mode, play through any kind of version. You can play through any mode and get your credits that way. But to put it into perspective, playing through a game and doing average, you get a kind of from 150 to 250 credits. If you're lucky, you get about 300 if you get a couple milestones and a few headshots and stuff like that. So, yeah, 300 credits, beautiful. EA forgot to kind of mention that to unlock each hero was around 60,000 credits. 60,000 credits. Now to put that into perspective, it's going to take you about 40 hours of pure gameplay to unlock each hero or villain. Each. That is a joke. Now, if you do go on Reddit, you'll know that EA's thread and their comments and whatnot, it's like the most downvoted thing on Reddit. You make history for the wrong reasons. You could have made history by saying everything's free, microtransactions gone, but no, you just went and got yourself the most downvoted thread and comments on Reddit. And that is obviously, that says everything that you need to know about how everyone feels about EA and what they've done. But they tried to fix it. They came out and said, all right. We're going to minimize that microtransaction bullshit. We're going to try and alleviate some of that pressure of progression, and we're going to make every hero or villain, whatever, unlockable with I think 15,000 credits. Now that's a bit more tolerable, but it's not good. Now here's my problem. Here's my take on it. Now microtransactions are not good. So let's get that out of the way, especially when they're kind of performance based. If they're purely cosmetic, a skin for a weapon, a skin for a character, no worries. But if it has to do with progression, gameplay, mechanics, giving people the unfair advantage basically, then I have a problem. Now, Battlefront 2 and Battlefront 1 are very much alike and very different in areas that are both important and somewhat not important. I'll get to that in a sec. So firstly, Battlefront 1 had obviously had its own kind of issues with a hugely expensive season pass. However, it did some things well. So apart from the game, I'm talking about things on the microtransaction side. It had kind of, from the get-go, everything that was locked was unlockable through in-game gameplay, and it was fair, it was justified. Heroes were not locked. As far as progression goes, everything was pretty even. The season pass was a huge cost. It was overly expensive, probably one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive season pass of all time. However, me being a sucker, I did get that season pass and can safely tell you that once you got the season pass, you got everything. There was no, yes, definitely you got an unfair advantage of people that had not have bought it. I get that. I totally understand that. But you got everything. That was it. It wasn't a service. It was, all right, you've invested this much money. The game is completely unlocked for you. Have fun. And for that part, for the most part, I did. It was a great game. It was a great season pass. It was full of content. I love the maps. I love the variety. I love the weapons and the heroes. And it gave me enough. I was happy, personally. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. Don't charge, you know, season passes are bullshit for the most part, and that was over the top and unnecessarily expensive. However, Battlefront 2 aimed to fix that, so they gave us, let's say, no season pass, and they gave us all the maps and the heroes and forthcoming content for free. That's great. You can't really complain with that. The difference is, when progression is now this hard and subject to a lot of loot crates, which give you obviously credits, but crafting material to unlock weapons, it's much harder to progress. So you're enjoying whatever the game has to offer, but you're enjoying it in a way that feels held back. It's reserved. The progression is so much harder than the original game that it just feels unfair in another way. So for everything Battlefront 2 fixed, they kind of gave us another problem that wasn't actually there in the first game. So it kind of validates the first game, and the first game validates the second game, which I think is strange. I think it's just such a weird way to approach a sequel. Trying to improve on what obviously was wrong with the first one, they did. But what wasn't wrong with the first one is now an issue here, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. Now, I think a lot of that is actually the gaming landscape has changed since Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2. So, as well as that, there was no campaign in Battlefront 1, so Battlefront 2 has added that, and for the most part, it's okay. It's good. But as well as that, I think Destiny is to blame for a lot of this, because multiplayer games are good. Some of them are free to play, some of them aren't free to play. Some of them pack a lot of content into the initial release, and some of them, like Battlefront 2, like Destiny, require some sort of season pass or ongoing kind of commitment, if you will, that just costs money. So overall, I think that Destiny is to blame for making multiplayer games a service. Now, what I mean by a service is, not only is it an ongoing experience, but it's an experience that costs money to partake in what comes out at a later date. Now, that kind of explains the concept of a season pass. It explains the concept of microtransactions on that front. But when you make progression this hard, so yeah, obviously the credits thing is annoying enough alone, because what you would have had access to in the first game, you now have to fork out 15,000 per character to unlock. It takes a lot of time. And I understand, if you can progress by in-game means and get the character, that's okay too. I guess there is a way to get it. Frustratingly so, but possible. The issue is how EA actually confront us, how EA actually respond to this. And while lowering the cost of these heroes is a big deal, because it just shows that gamers can kick up that much of a fuss, that developers will listen to some extent. However, the issue I have is the double speak and the PR bullshit. Now, kind of being in that industry myself, to some degree, you learn how to read into that stuff. And basically EA is just saying, we get where you're coming from, but we're kind of a business and we want to take more of your money. I totally understand that. EA are a business. But now it's come to a point where, as a business, you have to make your consumers happy. Your consumers have to pay a price, which is how business works. But should they be paying, should it be a staple, should it be commonplace for us to go out and pay the initial price, basically the full price of a game, and then just be expected to pay more down the line in different shapes and forms? Just because one game gives you maps and that for free, should it be okay to spend it elsewhere? Why? And if so, I think it's just not a really good direction that we're taking games in as far as multiplayer games go. Linking to this, and a branch off not only Star Wars, but Star Wars games and offering games as a service, Visceral Games is obviously owned by EA, and they got closed down. Amy Hennig, the lead designer or writer of the Uncharted series, is fantastic, very talented. Went over to EA and Visceral Games to create a new Star Wars game in the spirit of Uncharted. That too has obviously been closed with the closure of Visceral Games. Now, EA have come out and said, we don't want to scrap this game. We just want to change it into what we think would make a profitable and entertaining experience. Basically, they just described, in my opinion, Destiny. They described something that is definitely ongoing, more or less multiplayer based, and something that's going to require your money over a long period of time. Now, I understand that games are becoming more and more expensive to make. They're becoming increasingly larger and larger scale productions as we obviously get advanced and games just become more technically complicated. I understand that. But I think now it shouldn't be a staple to have to pay more for your game. Games shouldn't be seen as a hindrance, an ongoing investment from the developer. There should exist a title that you can just pick up and play, and yes, they do. Don't get me wrong, there exist games like Uncharted, for example, fantastic single-player game. Single-player games aren't as lucrative anymore. I totally understand that. It probably started with the original Tomb Raider back in what would have been 2013 or 12. I can't remember. Basically, it was an awesome single-player experience that sold like a bajillion copies and still didn't make enough money to be considered profitable. So I understand the draw of not wanting to make too many single-player games. It makes sense. But now, with EA obviously taking what was a single-player game in Amy Hennig's Star Wars title and turning it into what can be described as a service-type game, much like that of Destiny or, unfortunately, Star Wars Battlefront 2, it makes sense that games are shifting this way. You know, people just don't want to buy games only to realize that the initial purchase just wasn't enough. Like, your money to begin with wasn't enough to get the full extent of this game. And that's just not fair, you know? So in the interest of fairness, give the customers a heads up. You know, don't let this shit catch you like 2 days before release when we finally find out loot boxes really are this bad and your PR doublespeak was just bullshit. You know, it doesn't relieve any of the tension. The tension's going to be there when people actually play the game. It doesn't make it okay before the game comes out. And at the end of the day, it's not fair to have your people buy the game, have your consumers buy your game, and then for them to get home and realize, oh shit, this is not what I thought this game would be. It's just not fair. And you can't assume that everyone has enough money to just afford all this ongoing bullshit, especially microtransactions which make progression easier. It's called pay to win. Games are already pay to play. They should be won on our terms, not the terms that you charge. They shouldn't be won on a price. They should be won on skill. They should be won on talent. They should be won on commitment on that front. Not, I paid $2.95 for 10,000 credits, and that 10,000 credits gives me every freaking gun in the game, or whatever it is, for any game. You know, and it's different because you're not necessarily playing with, you know, people's expectations. You're also playing with their money. So, look, whether they choose to give it to you is obviously their prerogative, it's their concern, and it's their choice. But be rest assured, people are not happy. They shouldn't have to deal with it. And look, yes, there is the argument of paying with your wallet, showing your disgust, I would say. It does seem that strong to me, with your wallet. But also, it's not fair that people should miss out. Just because they disagree with something, it doesn't mean they can't play it. Yes, people still want to play Star Wars Battlefront. People still, regardless of how much money it costs them, it doesn't mean they can't like something like Destiny 2. It doesn't make any game less of a game because it charges you. It's just annoying to assume that people have to pay as an ongoing service, because it is like that. It's a service. It requests money of you for the long term. Now, Battlefront 2 has tried to alleviate that issue by negating expensive season passes and whatnot. But look, let's say you bought the game for $80 and you bought the season pass for $80. That's $160. It's a lot of money for a game, but it gave you everything. There was a sense of security there. There was a sense of, I know what I'm getting, and I'm getting everything. With Battlefront 2, you're not paying for the content as far as maps and maybe weapons and heroes and all that stuff like that, but to unlock everything is so hard that it just seems unfair. And some people will pay, and some people will get frustrated and not play your game because it's too unfair. So either way, the consumers are losing. Now, like I said, raise the price of the games, you get your money, we get a complete experience free from any ongoing bullshit and all these microtransactions. If you want our money, don't try and steal it with us last minute with these bullshit progression tactics, which I think are stupid. I paid to play as Luke Skywalker. Don't put him behind some stupid locked paywall, which is going to require me 40 hours of gameplay just to play as Luke Skywalker. Because you're going to get frustrated, and people do pay for all these unlocks, so you can spend that 40 hours actually playing who you wanted instead of playing to unlock them. So look, at the end of the day, guys, it's just my 2 cents. I put this in vlog form, but it's not really special or high tech. It's just me talking to the camera. You know, thank you for sticking by me. If you have an opinion on microtransactions and stuff of that sort, please comment down below. Tell me what you think. If you agree with me, great. If you don't, please tell me why. Make some genuine points. I'm open to what everyone thinks, because everyone's different. Some people might not hate it or mind it as much as I do, or hate it more, or hate it less, whatever. As always, if you like the video, please leave a like down below. You'd be doing me a huge favor. And last but not least, guys, we're almost there. The journey to 100 subscribers. For me, it's a huge milestone. So please jump on board. Be one of them. Thank you to all my subscribers and all my watchers and everyone who's jumped on board with this channel. You're the reason why it runs the way it does. So I thank each and every one of you for all your commitment and time. And yeah, this has been Chunky, guys. Thanks for stopping by my world. I'll see you soon. Take care.